Hi, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be going over a deck about going over some terms that happen that you have probably, if you've never bought a home, will never ever have never heard of. So we're going to go over those. There's some basics. We're not going to get super in depth with it, but we're going to go over kind of what it means and why it's important on everyone. There's a lot more to it, but these are just some ones that I came up with that I have. I I mean I deal with or help first-time home buyers almost exclusively, first-time home buyers, and so these are the things that come up most with the questions. So I thought that I would put something together and go through it with you. So first things first, let's see. We're going to go with that pre-approval. That is your first step. I mean, before you even start looking for a house, talk to a lender. I can go over that in more depth, answer some more questions outside of this if you want to contact me. But it's pre-approval is a letter from your lender saying how much money you're approved to borrow. And it matters because it shows sellers that you're serious and financially ready. And it is required in most states for you to even look at a house, because otherwise you could be looking at something that you can't afford and wasting the homeowner's time and wasting the realtor's time and yours, honestly, or maybe getting excited about something that you can't get. Next is down payment. What it means. We've all heard about down payment probably. It's the amount of money that you pay up front towards the purchase of your home. Up front is kind of deceiving. It's actually due at the end of escrow. So, and why it matters is it affects how much you borrow. The more you put down, the lower your monthly payment and less interest that you pay. There's different kinds of loans out there. There's FHA loans that are lower down payment, 3.5%. There's a conventional, which is typical 20%, but you can pay lower than that. A lot of people don't understand. They think that no matter what, when you buy a house, you have to have 20% down. Majority of people don't have that, especially first-time home buyers. I mean, this is your first home. You've been saving money. So those FHA loans and stuff are really, really helpful. There's different kinds. Closing costs. What it means. Closing costs are extra fees you pay at the end of the home buying process, escrow, usually typically 2 to 5% of the home price. Why it matters is they include things like inspections, lender fees, title insurance, and this probably comes up the most as a surprise for first-time home buyers because they feel like I have my down payment and that's all that I need. Well, your down payment is separate from your closing costs. Closing costs are on top of your down payment. There are loans, or sometimes your loan can be structured where your closing costs are paid for in the loan. There's also there's ways of negotiating closing costs called like seller concessions. That's getting a little bit more in depth, but there are ways to help with that. New developers, home developers, a lot of times will pay closing costs for you. So there are some ways around that, but it's something that you should absolutely know. Closing costs are a big kind of like a whoa, a lot, several percentages, that you still have to come up with on top of that. So there's some other things of that too. We can go over that too. Those surprises. All right, escrow. If you've never heard of escrow, escrow is a neutral third party. You've probably heard title in escrow. It holds your money. So your down payment that you put and your earnest money that you pay up front, which we'll go over that later, gets held in escrow till closing, then goes towards your down. It's like in a trust account, and they hold it, your money and your documents until everything is complete. What's great about escrow is it protects both the buyer and the seller. And when you get an accepted offer, you open escrow, and then at the end, then you close escrow, and then you get your keys. So escrow is an important part of the process. Earnest money deposit, or EMD, you might hear it called. Good faith money, skin in the game. That's all the same thing. And what that is it's a deposit typically around 1 to 3% of the purchase price. Depends on the market. Sometimes you have to, if it's a seller's market, you got to put a little bit more down, a little bit more competitive, but it's money that you put down when your offer is accepted. What it does is why it matters, what's important about it is that it proves you're committed. It's held in escrow, applied toward the purchase. We talked about that in the last slide. But you could lose it. This is money that you can lose. So that if you back out unfairly without using your contingencies. So if you just get cold feet and you're like, I can't, I just want to back out. I don't want to buy this house anymore. Well, then the buyer's going to get compensated for taking the house off the market and not being able to sell it. So, because they're losing money when that house is off the market. So be very aware, be committed when you play that earnest money down. So, all right, we're going to move over to contingencies. What it means, it's a condition in your contract that must be met for the deal to go through. Why it matters. Common ones are inspection and contingencies. In a contract, you have inspection period in your contracts where after it gets accepted, where you hire an inspector, you have them come out, you check, they check the whole house, the roof, the plumbing, the electric, any of that, and they tag anything, and they give you an inspection report, and then you can ask for repairs to be done. If the homeowner does not want to do that, then you at that time can back out of buying the home. Loan contingency, if for some reason you don't get full loan approval, you can back out and get your earnest money back. If the house doesn't appraise, same thing. Those are your three top, contingencies that protect you if things don't work out. All right, appraisal. So appraisal, you might have heard this one. What it means, it's a professional estimate of the home's value. It's ordered by your lender. And why it matters is your loan is based on this value. So if the appraisal comes in low, you may need to renegotiate or bring some cash. You might have to come up with the difference. So this is important too. This protects the loan. Inspection, very important. I don't ever think that anyone should buy a home, especially a resale home, without getting one of these. It's very important. You have no idea what's happened in that home. It could have been owned by several different people, and you don't know how well they took care of their house or if they maintained it properly. So it's a detailed report of the home's condition by a licensed professional. And why it matters is it helps you avoid buying a house with hidden issues like plumbing leaks and or roof damage. So it's very important, this right here. You can ask for, we talked about it in the last one, where you can usually you can negotiate repairs. So very important. So I know some people that list homes. I know something that I do. If you're going to list a home with me, I pay for it, or we negotiate. I negotiate with the seller and do the inspection up front. So that way, when we list the home, it's in the MLS, it's in there. We've already done it. We've already taken care of some repairs. And so it's a better negotiating for on my side, so on the seller side. All right, interest rates. I'm sure you've heard this. There's been a lot of stuff about interest rates going up and down. Everyone's kind of freaking out about them right now, but they usually hover right around under 8%, 7%. It's pretty normal historically. We've also had, when we had COVID, it was unheard of. That'll probably never happen again in the world. That was a weird time. So it's actually evened out. Hopefully we can get, but interest rate there's a lot that goes into the interest rate. It comes from the federal government. It also happens to be with what your credit rating is. There's all these different things that have to do with your interest rate. You can buy down points and you can lower your interest rate. You can negotiate some of that, called seller concessions, in your contract. See if maybe the seller might bump in some money to see if they can help buy down that rate. So it's the cost of borrowing money in a percentage, and a small percentage, it doesn't sound like a lot, can make a big deal on your monthly payment. So sometimes we'll have to negotiate. We will have, instead of asking for like, money off the home price, we will ask for a certain amount in seller concessions, which means that you can buy down your rate. And that would help you more in your payment than it would to ask for some money off of the home price sometimes. So, all right, principal. This has to do with your payment. Your principal is the amount of money that you borrow. The loan itself, this is not including interest. Interest is separate. And why it matters is your monthly mortgage payment includes paying back this amount. So your loan is that amount and you have interest. You pay interest on top of that principal amount. And then private mortgage insurance. This is one where if it's extra insurance that you might have to pay if your down payment is less than 20%. You might hear PMI. And why it matters is it protects the lender, not you. And it adds to your monthly cost. And some loans have ways to avoid it. So something to talk to your lender about, but it's pretty common in some of those loans. HOA, Homeowners Association. Some of you might be very familiar and have lived in an HOA your whole life. It's a group that manages shared spaces, and there's rules called CC&Rs in certain neighborhoods or condos, townhomes, usually gated, not always. Sometimes they take care of the grounds, the pool, any amenities. You'll see them a lot in new developments. You do have to pay that HOA fee monthly. It is not something you can get out of. If you don't pay, they can fine you. There's a process. It can be bad for you if you don't pay your HOA. And so that's something that when you do get your loan, you will have to know. So they'll have to know, obviously, how much the home is. They'll need to know if there's an HOA. Those are big deals. Those all go into, even though you wouldn't pay that in your loan, that's something that makes a difference. Because if it's a $400 a month HOA, then here's your house payment, and then you'd have an $400 HOA payment, which would be tacked on to that payment because you have to pay it. So it is important to know that and decide whether you want to live in an HOA or not. You'll hear a lot about fixed rate versus an adjustable rate or an ARM loan. You'll hear like a 2-1, meaning that so your fixed rate has the same interest for the life of the loan. And ARM changes over time. So like I'd say like a 2-1, sometimes you'll hear about for like the first 2 years, your loan's going to be at this low percentage. And then on that third year, that 2-1, so that third year, it's going to go up to whatever that rate is. And then it's going to stay that way for the life of the loan. So you'll hear those too. There's different ones of those. I just used a quick example. Fixed loan means that you have, this is what you signed, this is what you got your loan at, this rate, and it's going to stay that rate the life of the loan unless you refinance. All right. And that's it for our slides. Nice and quick. I hope that was informative. I know it was quick, but I'm here to help. So if you have any other further questions about what any of these mean, if you want me to go in more detail, also any lending, I can get you in touch with some lenders that are extremely wonderful to work with and very, very knowledgeable. And they would be happy just to answer your questions, which I fully think anybody should do that's never bought a house before. Ask away, and a good lender is going to sit and give you their time, and they're going to answer your questions. Sometimes they can even take a look at things and go, okay, this is where you are. This is what you need to do to get to here to be able to buy a home. And so sometimes people feel like they won't be able to buy a home, and they will. So there's a lot of options out there. There's a lot of different ways to work loans and structure loans, and there's a lot of different loans out there. First responders, teachers, there's all kinds of stuff out there for everyone, first-time home buyers. So there's a lot of help. And any resources that you need or would like me to get you, I would be happy to help. So my contact info is on my page. And I thank you so much for listening. And I'll be making more of these videos, educational videos, and I hope you all like them. Have a great day. Thank you.